General Kenobi, years ago you served my father in the Clone Wars. Now he begs you to help him in his struggle against the Empire. I regret that I am unable to present my father's request to you in person, but my ship has fallen under attack, and I'm afraid my mission to bring you to Alderaan has failed. I have placed information vital to the survival of the rebellion into the memory systems of this R2 unit. My father will know how to retrieve it. You must see this droid safely delivered to him on Alderaan. This is our most desperate hour. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Okay, step 1, get the soundtrack, because the entire experience is built on top of sound. I have the original clip from the movie, and I'm dragging it into a sound editing program. You can see 2 tracks, video and audio. I select the video track, and I delete it, leaving only the audio. I start optimizing the audio by turning up Leia's voice in the low places, and then muting the background music between when she speaks. So what I'll end up with are 2 optimized tracks. One with voice only and the original. I will use the voice only track for lip syncing when it's time to make the model talk. Here's the voice only track where you can see gaps between the talking, and here's the original. Step 2, find a base model and optimize it for animation. I Google Leia 3D model, and I choose this model because it's high quality yet low polygon, which is easier to animate. First, I remove the gun that comes with the model because we don't need it. Another reason that I chose this model is because it only has 2 textures, which I can edit later. The end result that I want is to have a model divided into 2 separate pieces, a body that I can animate and a head that I can make talk. As you see, when I click on the model, it has separate sections. I want to optimize and combine them all together. So I start by optimizing the head. I'll select the face, I'll hide it, I'll select the hair, and then I'll go and look and see what other pieces that I can select and hide. There's upper teeth, I want to combine that together. I want to combine the lower teeth. And as I'm selecting each section, I'm going through and I'm selecting all of the vertices and I'm welding like vertices together. When I go through the hair, there's a couple of pieces that are hidden inside that don't even need to be there, so I delete them. I select the face, I select the vertices, and I smooth it. And then I bring everything all together at the end. Once it's all smooth and optimized, I'll select each piece and then combine it together and rename it a head. So now I end up with the model that is optimized. There's the body and there's the head. Step 3, I want to edit the model and remove the hood from the back. I also want to edit the texture and remove the shadow that the hood casts. In the movie scene, Leia's hood is covering her head, and I want to match the movie as close as possible. So I start by removing these vertices in the back. That leaves a hole that must be closed. I select and combine the vertices, while at the same time rearranging other vertices. I continue to do this until the hole is completely closed. I tuck in the bottom a bit, and I adjust the belt. To get rid of other bulges, I select the seams and pull them closer together to the body, and then scale them inwards. Next, I open the texture for the model's back in Photoshop and begin removing the hood wrinkles. I leave a few wrinkles so that the texture still appears to look like cloth. Once this is complete, I want to remove the shadow. I'll open the second texture using the clone tool and I blend away the shadow, keeping the wrinkles aligned as much as possible. Now when you look at the model, you see that the hood is gone. The model is looking good and we can move to the next step. Step 4, create a hood to cover the head. I want to create a hood by grabbing cloth from the front of the model and molding it over her head. I select a section, clone it, and name it hood. I remove unwanted vertices and faces until I have a somewhat flat square piece of cloth. I select the cloth, position it over her head, and scale it to fit. Once the cloth is in place, I start molding it. I select the front and back vertices and then align them. I add weight to the vertices in the back so I can stretch and pull the hood down. I adjust the front and pull the vertices closer to the head on the sides. I continue to move vertices and shape the hood so that it appears to cover her head as it did in the movie. And then I round off the back. Last, I select the hood, clone faces, and flip the normals to make it double-sided so that I can use a single-sided shader for the entire model. Step 5. Create the blend shape heads for talking animations. I start by making a copy of the file and removing everything but the head. I clone the original head and hide it. I make another clone, which will be the first blend shape, blinking. I select the eyes and hide them. I begin sculpting the eyes, shutting and pulling the eyelids forward to close the eyes. Once I finish the first one, I move to the next one and do the same thing. I select the original head and link it to the head with closed eyes as a blend shape so I can animate between the two. Next, I clone the original head again. This time, I want to make a head with the mouth open as wide as possible. I want to create the widest mouth first because it's easier to make other poses by closing the mouth than it is to open it. With the mouth now open, I unhide and position the teeth. I unhide the inside of the mouth and open it as well. I make 2 more copies and begin creating different poses. I close the mouth a bit and adjust the teeth and lips. For the final pose, I close the mouth even more and move the teeth closer together. I test all 3 different poses. With all other poses complete, I select the original head containing all the linked blend shapes and export an FBX with animation. Back in the original file, I remove the old head and replace it with the new head containing the blend shapes. Step 6. Rig the model. I want to add a biped or skeletal structure to the model so that the model has bones, which tell it how to move. I add a default skeleton and select all pieces of the model. I set the model to be transparent so I can see the bones better and make it unclickable so that I only select the bones. Now I'm able to position the bones to fit the model. I align and scale the skeleton so that the joints all bend in the correct places. I move the head into position. Next, I adjust the arms and hands. Now that the skeleton is in place, I move to the next step. Step 7. Skin the model. This is one of the most difficult steps because it involves linking the model's skin to the bones and fine-tuning how the skin stretches. I start with selecting each piece of the model and assigning only the bones that will affect it. I load in a walking animation to help me see how the skin behaves. You can see that the initial skinning needs work. As the model walks, some vertices are attached to the wrong bones and weighted incorrectly, causing ugly, jagged triangles. To correct this, I start with the hood and the head, which are the easiest because only the head and neck bones affect them. I move to the body starting at the feet. I work my way up, adding weight to each vertex. Switching between the default pose and the walking animation lets me see any vertices that still need more work. Even though Leia will not walk in the final animation, she will take a step and her robe will stretch. So it's important that the bottom of the robe moves correctly. I pay special attention to adjust any vertices that do not cover the leg when Leia steps. Finally, I load a different standing animation. I see her hands need work, so I fix them. Now, when I play the walking animation, you can see that the robe moves correctly, much better than before. Step 8. Animate the model to the soundtrack. I start by loading the soundtrack that I edited in the beginning. I will use this track as a guide while I animate the model's body. I switch to the movie clip to see how to animate the first pose. I select the model and make it transparent to see the bones. I begin moving the hands closer together just like in the movie. I notice that Leia is slightly bent over, so I adjust the back and spine. In this scene, Leia opens her hands and brings them back together. I adjust the hands for this pose so that one hand is inside of the other. I hide the skin and skip to the next pose in the movie. In this scene, Leia is bent over, so I lock the model's feet to the ground and bend the legs. I adjust the back and extend the right arm. The left arm is out of view, so I make the assumption that she placed it in her lap. I unhide the skin to better refine the pose. I straighten the legs a bit and adjust the arc of the back. In the next scene, Leia looks back, so I want to mimic this pose as well. I notice that the head begins to turn first, followed by an upper body twist, then a lower body twist. Her right arm is extended, so I adjust it a bit. I link all the poses together in the correct order while blending the keyframes so the animation syncs with the sound. After a few more tweaks, I add the final animation of Leia pushing a button while she's bent over. When taking a look at the full animation in 3D Studio Max, you can see the head moves as if talking, and all the poses blend together nicely. Finally, I save and export the model with blend shapes and animation into Unity 3D. The final step, Step 9. In Unity, I start by lighting the model. Using the movie clip as a guide, I match the blue tint by adjusting the direct and ambient lighting. I want to make the color a bit more intense to compensate for the transparency in the final hologram. Once the lighting is complete, I script animation to start on command, add and configure scripts to manage blinking and mouth animation, add a shader to simulate horizontal TV lines. And here's the final result compared to the movie.
General Kenobi, years ago you served my father in the Clone Wars. Now he begs you to help him in his struggle against the Empire. I regret that I am unable to present my father's request to you in person, but my ship has fallen under attack, and I'm afraid my mission to bring you to Alderaan has failed. I have placed information vital to the survival of the rebellion into the memory systems of this R2 unit. My father will know how to retrieve it. You must see this droid safely delivered to him on Alderaan. This is our most desperate hour. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.